Boom.
Booyah.
I'm recording. Are you recording?
I'm recording.
I'm recording.
Woo, we did it! Oh my god. This is so exciting.
Success.
Let us finish an episode, please.
Yes, come on.
You know your life is just a dream, don't you?
Welcome to Who Fucking Knows, a podcast where three friends, a blonde, a brunette, and a redhead discuss conspiracy theories, murder mysteries, and unknown phenomena that make you say, who fucking knows what happened? My name is Angela.
I'm Taylor, and I'm finally a full redhead again.
Yes. I'm Lexy, and I'm here.
And welcome to
blonde.
Who Fucking Knows.
Woo!
We're happy to
Yay.
be here. Well, today, even though it's 10 a.m., we are going to be drinking Electronic Bar Experience drink. So you all know we have our little partnership with them. Woo! This is
Dink.
part of their fall line. We are drinking the Windowsill Apple Temptation. It's an apple martini. Lexi, give us a little info of what's on the back of the bottle.
Okay, so Blue Coat Gin is infused with Honeycrisp apples, which are my favorite kind of apples, for a week to soften the citrus notes. Then a homemade syrup composed of apples, oranges, brown sugar, and a combination of spices is mixed, resulting in a beautiful cocktail. Savor a guilt-free slice of apple pie in liquid form. Ta-da! Sounds delicious.
I just poured it, and you can smell apple pie. It just smells like fall.
Ooh, nice. I'm actually gonna just drink mine straight out of the bottle because I don't have any ice. I have a freezer in my hotel and a little thing, and I don't know if the ice machine is in the works right now because of COVID. I don't think it is, but I don't know. So I'm just gonna drink it straight out of the bottle to make my life a little easier. And maybe
Good to me.
I'm gonna do that
maybe
too.
this will show that these things are good for on the go, you know.
There we go.
on the drive,
taste.
on the whatever. Just kidding.
On the drive.
Yeah, just open it up and drive
kidding.
with it.
Totally
It's
kidding.
fine.
Don't do that. We do not
not
promote
condone
that.
In fact, I'm not driving anywhere because I don't work till midnight.
Yeah,
but
I
I
work
really
from
like
home,
this.
so-
Oh,
Okay.
this is really
I
good.
really like this.
Yeah,
Like,
this
it's
is
so
Oh my
easy to
god,
drink.
that is really good.
oh.
It does taste like
especially
apple
at 10
pie.
in the morning. I was like, please don't be too strong. Please don't be
No,
too strong.
it's freaking good.
We're not alcoholics. We need
We're
to
not.
review this, and we are so pleasantly surprised by it.
Yeah,
oh,
this is
I think
freaking
especially
delicious.
since like the last couple ones weren't really my thing. So it's really nice that this is like sweet, but not overly sweet, and it just tastes like fall in your mouth, like an apple orchard, like almost
totally-
kind of like what's it called, like cider, you know, like cold cider
Yeah.
instead of hot and warmy. It's a little spicy, but
Definitely
I love
good
the
cider
cinnamon.
vibes. Mhm.
Like, guys, just the cinnamon. I taste the
so
cinnamon
good.
so much, and I love it. So should I go into our current event?
yes, give
Or-
me news,
yeah.
or something.
So this was an article that was published on October 13th. I don't know if you've heard this, but humans are continuing to evolve, and they're doing so at a faster rate than they have in the last 250 years.
Are
So
we becoming robots?
Oh shit.
Nope. But it's kind of crazy. My coworker told me about this, and when they told me about it, I was like, holy shit, I need to talk about this. And so I looked it up. And so the conclusion of scientists in Australia who found that more and more people now have the median artery in their arms, and more people are now being born without wisdom teeth, among other foundings. And yeah, so the conclusion is that we're evolving faster than ever before. So it's interesting because I want to say it's in our right arm. We are getting another artery. And because so many people pull out their wisdom teeth, it's like people are starting to be born without them now. And I'm like, that's
shit.
crazy, you know?
Evolution.
Oh, I would love to do a study on people who have had kids that like were born with molar teeth, and then if the teeth get smaller, if they get them removed, if those kids have like smaller ones until the time that they just don't grow at all,
Yeah.
or like you no longer need to get them removed. That would be interesting because I got mine removed, but James I think still he got his removed too. So I wonder if our kids will have wisdom teeth.
So the once rare median artery is long was long considered chiefly an embryonic structure, supplements the radial and ulnar arteries, increasing overall blood flow to the forearm and hand. I think that's really interesting because we use our hands so much, especially now that we have like technology that we always use and we're always like fidgeting with little stuff. Yeah. So it's increasing blood flow to our hands and making it easier for us to control our motion in our hands, which is like, what? That's crazy. And so I guess since the 18th century, autonomists have been studying the prevalence of this artery in adults, and their study shows it's clearly increasing. The prevalence was around 10% in people born in the mid-1880s compared to 30% in those born in the late 20th century. So that's a significant increase in a fairly short period of time when it comes to evolution. The Journal of Autonomy study states that people born 80 years from now will all carry a median artery if the trend continues. And when the median artery prevalence reaches 50% or more, it should not be considered a variant, but as normal. So, yeah.
Weird.
And apparently, this study also concludes that human faces are becoming shorter and jaws smaller, resulting in more people being born without wisdom teeth. The research found that changes started to occur in humans, including additional bones, or other changes started to occur in humans, including additional bones and bone connections in the legs and feet. So, such a evolution indicates that humans are evolving at a faster rate than at any point in the past 250 years. And it kind of trips me out that our jaws are getting smaller because when I think of aliens, I think of them having a tiny ass jaw and a big ass head. So
and like very small mouth. We're evolving into aliens.
Holy shit.
Aliens are just future humans coming back to observe. That's my theory. Just kidding.
Oh my god.
Or they're hidden and they're reproducing with humans, and this is the result
we've
of it.
talked about that before, right?
Yeah, true that. The hybrid, what is it? I can't remember the word. Yeah, hybrid experiment or hybrid something program. Hybrid program. Yeah, but that's crazy, right? It's like, what? Yes. All right, but that's my current event.
I love
and
it.
now, whose ever story is ready is ready.
Lexy.
Is me? Okay. Well. I feel so rusty because I feel like we haven't done this in a while, and I'm like back in Petaluma at my old desk, but here we go. So I am going to tell you about an island, but this is no tropical island. It's a haunted island, probably haunted. So this island is off of Italy, and it is called Poveglia. I don't know if I said that right, but that was my attempt at an Italian accent.
It's all good.
So essentially, this island has quite a dark history that traces back thousands and thousands of years ago. So during the Roman Empire, the island was used to house victims of the plague in order to protect the rest of the country. So people would go there to isolate or quarantine as to not further spread the plague to other people. But they were essentially forced to live on this island. If you got the plague, you would be sent to this island, essentially just to die. So as you can imagine, dead bodies quickly began to overcrowd the island, and thousands were dumped into just large mass graves. In many cases, the bodies were also burned. So again, just very dark shit happening on this island. Lots of dead bodies, lots of negative energy. So now the soil there is actually turned like rotten. There are apparently a lot of thriving grape vineyards on the island, and the only people who dare to, so they grow grapes and they make wine, which I should look into. Wine? I would love that. Would be kind of fun to get, actually.
That could be like a great marketing ploy. Like they can totally sell that stuff.
Yeah.
Especially since that's the height right now, you know, like with all the different true crime and ghost podcasts out there.
Wine and spirits.
Wine and spirits, yes, I love that. We should start our own business.
We're not old enough for these type of puns.
But this article says grapevines must do well in ashy soil because it's been said that more than 50% of the island's soil is composed of human ash. So that's what these fucking grapes are growing in.
Human ash?
That's how
Human ash. Human ash, baby.
plants.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Also on this island on Poveglia, there was a psychiatric hospital with even more tortured souls, as you can imagine. So this place, tons of dead bodies and a psychiatric hospital. Like, you're just asking for a haunted island. Oh, I know, it's just one thing
Buy
after
some
another.
land there.
Yeah. So the mental hospital was opened in the 1920s. And as you can imagine, lots of mentally disturbed patients were sent to the island, to this hospital. There were reports of widespread abuse and really awful experiments that the doctors were performing on different mental patients, which is just really sad. There's a legend of a particularly awful doctor who worked at the island's mental hospital. So his notorious experiments on patients are still a bit shocking when told today, so fair warning. He was really into lobotomies. He thought it was a great way to treat and cure mental illnesses, as many doctors did, in the 1920s. So performed a lot of lobotomies on people against their will, often. So like hammering and chiseling and drilling into their brain with no anesthesia and no concern for sanitation. Yeah, it's really awful.
Damn.
Allegedly, he saved his darkest experiments for special patients and would take them to the bell tower, and whatever he did in there, the legend is you could hear their screams from the bell tower and like hear it all across the island.
Dude, I feel like he's a psychopath. He should be in a psych ward.
I know.
Like, at that point.
Yes, I know.
Come on, man.
But I will say karma
that
got
makes me-
him. So,
Ooh.
yeah.
That's good. It makes me think of the American Horror Story season Asylum.
Yes.
Doctor
Yeah.
like Arkham or whatever his name. Arkin or
What was his name? Dr. Thredson?
yeah. I don't know where I was getting Arkin.
Yeah. Another side note, have you guys watched Ratched on Netflix? Nurse
I
Ratched?
can't. I don't think I can right now.
It was good.
I haven't
but it's
watched it.
kind of a similar, like, mental hospital-esque lobotomies and whatnot. But, okay, so this doctor eventually lost his mind. He claimed that he was being tortured by spirits, and he climbed to the top of the bell tower and jumped off and killed himself. So some
like-
say maybe he was pushed by the tortured poor souls that he tortured. So I
feel like that's someone that had an immense amount of guilt, probably, because he knew what he was doing
knows what
was
he's
fucking
doing.
wrong.
It's fucking bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like people like that, I don't feel like they really feel that. I don't think it was suicide. I think he was pushed
I
or
hope
he
he
was
was
shoved
pushed, yeah.
or something like
By
that.
a-
I was
by a
hoping it would be
ghost.
like his patients like finally rallied and
I know.
Like,
Tied him up and
fuck the
did a
shit out of
lobotomy.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. But, oh well. So he's dead now.
maybe next time.
Yep. So again, it is thought that the hundreds and thousands of tormented souls still remain trapped on the island, and those that do go there claim to still hear their screams. But I will say it's actually illegal to go to this island, but
Damn it.
if there's a will, there's a way. People still go over there and have really, the ghost hunters and whatnot. But they claim to have like paranormal experiences there, getting scratched or hearing screams, being chased by souls. Of course, the asylum is thought to be filled with ghosts of the patients. Visitors to the hospital during the final years of its operation were even still having some sort of paranormal activity there, or claims of paranormal activity, when it was still a running hospital. So it's just like years and years of creepy shit happening there. So as I mentioned, when the plague patients were sent there and they had just like so many dead bodies, they would either bury them or burn them. So charred human bones still wash up on the shore of this island. There were over 100,000 plague victims and mental patients that are buried or burned on this island. So, of course, there are still some charred bones washing
And
out.
like no one's allowed to go there anymore, so like crazy shit could still be going down.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it's just like an abandoned ghost town. Like there's still buildings and stuff there. It's said that why it's abandoned now is because of the hauntings, and no one could live there in peace because of all like the screams and the strange sounds. But But I mean, the grape
I don't think
growers
anyone
still
would
live
just
there.
want to live there, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but then like turn it into like at least like I don't know,
An amusement
attraction.
park. Yeah.
I think, yeah, so a
For
family...
the disturbed.
Yeah, a family actually purchased the island after the mental hospital was shut down, and they were going to build like a private holiday home there. So they arrived and got settled in on their first day, excited to begin their new adventure. But the first night was filled with like horrors and screams and paranormal things. And it's claimed that their daughter's face was nearly ripped off by an angry resident entity. So that's
Lovely.
fucking creepy.
Maybe we should just be respectful and let them do their shit.
Yeah.
I like my face.
So again, it's illegal
I like
to
it
visit
enough.
the island. It's said to be one of the world's most illegal places to visit. So even though trespassers know that they will be sternly prosecuted under Italian law, people still visit and, have weird experiences there and experience all the tortured souls and whatnot. So who fucking knows why this island attracted so many dark spirits and experiences. It's kind of unfortunate and sad, but also I'm really intrigued by just a haunted island off the coast of Italy with all of this crazy history. So
I want Zach Baggins to go there and experience
I do
it.
too, yeah. Yeah, so perhaps our next girls trip can be Poveglia. This
Who
creepy-
fucking knows? Breaks the law. No, just
Yeah.
kidding.
Who knows? Gets arrested.
Will our faces be eaten off? Who knows?
But
I'll stay here. Thank you very much. I like my life enough to stick around and see how it goes, minus those ghosts.
yeah, but
That's funny.
that's what I got for y'all. Just a little quickie spooks with Lexy.
Cool.
Alrighty then, Angela, what are you talking about this week? I need to compose myself because I'm a 12-year-old boy. So.
Me too.
All right. So, let me tell you. So, sorry, I'm putting up my notes. So, I got all this information from historicmysteries.com. So, I'll just get started. On a chilly, wintry day in 1929, the director of Turkey's National Museum was hunched over his solitary task of classifying documents. Idem was going through the basement of a Turkish palace looking for old maps at the request of German theologian Gustav Adolf Dutchman. As he was doing so, Idem happened upon a very mysterious artifact. It was a small map inked onto roe deer skin, although only a fragment of it remained. At first, it looked like any other age map, but as Edom opened the chart to its full dimensions, which are 2 feet by 3 feet wide, he was surprised by how much of the New World was depicted on a map which dated 1513. It was ultimately...
I just remembered what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
Like, it settled in. I'm sorry. It's crazy. It's crazy to think that there's like land masses on maps before they were quote unquote discovered. And you're like, why?
Yeah. So it was ultimately identified as the Piri Reis map, which incorporated the only known copy of Christopher Columbus's map. So not only did the Piri Reis map of 1513 include excessive annotations and accurate depictions of the Azores, Canary Islands, Atlantic Islands, and Japan, but historians were amazed to find it included a depiction of Antarctica. However, Antarctica wasn't discovered until 1773. So how could it possibly be on a map dated 260 years earlier? So the mystery deepened further. Not only did the Piri Reis map show the coastline of Antarctica, but it displayed the proportions of the continent without its ice cap, which were only visible over 6,000 years ago. So the Piri Reis map has proved to be an object of great debate and controversy amongst cartographers, researchers, and historians for decades. Is it proof of an advanced ancient civilization, or does it prove the history of our own civilization is wrong, or is there a simple answer to this baffling mystery? In 1513, Ottoman Turkish cartographer and geographer Ahmed Mudini Piri, otherwise known as Piri Reis, set out to document the known world in map form. Reis was a pirate turned Turkish Navy admiral and a seasoned traveler of the high seas, so he knew a thing or two about coastlines and continents. So how this came to be is he was born in Gallipoli, a naval base on the Marmara Sea, and was a nephew of Kemal Reis, who was a pirate who had reinvented himself as a Turkish admiral adventurer and made his name in naval warfare. So at the time, the distinction between pirate and admiral was way more flexible than we might be imagining. Like, it was like, I'm sure when I thought pirate and admiral, I thought of freaking Jack Sparrow, Scruff, and then like a man in uniform kind of thing. But apparently they were kind of one and the same. So,
okay.
So
resume his pirate duties. However, he was just now legal. Is that more like it? Or
yeah, pretty much. Okay. He was like, and apparently, so his uncle was this like pirate who turned into an admiral, and I think what happened was he kind of just followed in the footsteps with his uncle. Like, he was sailing with his uncle for a while, and then when he joined the Navy, he just joined it too because he was already sailing with his uncle, and eventually he became an admiral himself. So that's what his nephew accompanied him to his new assignment. And so
that'd be a pretty cool uncle.
Yeah, so he was with his uncle from 1487 to 1493, and during that time, the fleet fought pirates and captured and plundered enemy ships, and in 1995 is when his uncle was so skilled in the battle that it earned him an invitation to join the Imperial Turkish fleet. So he followed his uncle, and they were transformed into respectable admirals. So his uncle, unfortunately, was killed during a naval battle in 1502. And at that time, Piri Reis turned his back on the seafaring life and began a second career as a map maker. So, yeah, a perfectionist, Piri Reis would not tolerate the slightest error in his drawings. He created his famous map in 1513 using 20 different sources, making sure to cite every map and chart as he went along. These included 8 Ptolemaic, so they're second century Greek society maps, 4 Portuguese map, 1 Arabic map, and 1 map by Christopher Columbus. So the Turks had boarded one of Columbus's ship before the crew had a chance to throw the charts into the sea, which was standard practice in a time when the contours of the planet remained veiled in mystery and maps held secrets that were invaluable to pirates, admirals, kings, and queens. So Reis acknowledged that he himself hadn't visited many of the lands which he documented. However, his creation was still academically valued. So despite this, however, the map remained a relatively obscure artifact. It wasn't until it reemerged in 1929 that it began to conjure up interest. Even then, it was still brushed over for a number of years. So in 1965, Professor Charles Hapgood from the University of New Hampshire scrutinized the map with several of his students. They too noticed the map's depiction of Antarctica's coastline, but they also picked up on yet another strange anomaly. The Piri Reis map had been created using the Mercator projection, a method of creating maps that allowed for an accurate curvature when moving maps from paper to globe. But European cartographers didn't utilize this technique until 1569. Once again, the map seemed to have defied the laws of time. What startled Hapgood the most is the Antarctic coastline portrayed without ice. Of all maps Reis cited, none showed such a thing. It would require a map thousands of years old as a source, and no such map is known to exist. So this revelation prompted Hapgood to arrive at the only conclusion possible, that ancient mariners had mapped out the Antarctic coastline long before the lands had frozen over some 6,000 years ago. He stated that the topographical portrayal of the coastline appeared to be so accurate that whatever advanced society created the map must have possessed some kind of aerial mapping capabilities. So they had to have been able to fly, like what the fuck?
Hell?
So
and if they were able to fly back then, like, why did it take so many more years, like hundreds of years more, for us to have it be known and actually be doing things? It's just crazy.
So
I feel like we like leaped
Hapgood
into-
believed that Piri Reis must have used one of these ancient maps to create his own, but failed to cite it. But this bold conclusion implied everything we knew about civilizations was wrong. Based on what we know, ancient civilizations didn't possess the tools or capabilities to map out continents on such a grand scale. So how could that have been achieved? Speculation amongst scholars and historians began to take place. Paranormal researchers pointed to some extraterrestrial assistance. Others hypothesized the possible involvement of a civilization based around the lost city of Atlantis. So soon skeptics began to dissect the Piri Reis map along with Hapgood's findings. They came up with a few new conclusions. First, there were quite a few notable differences in the sizes of various coastlines on the Reis map to modern maps. Some areas were missing altogether. However, Hapgood attributed this copying error made by Reis. To combat this problem, Hapgood took it upon himself to insert some of the missing sections based on the source maps Reis had used. But then a few problems arose. After filling in some of the empty areas and altering land masses account for errors, Hapgood found that the map now had 5 separate equators. But despite this, the map continued to capture the imaginations of other researchers. This included the notable fraudster Eric von Däniken, who patrioted Hapgood's claims that the map is proof of extraterrestrial influence. So, yeah, it's like, yeah. So the magic of Piri Reis' map lied in the accuracy of its representation of Antarctica. However, critics are quick to point out that Antarctica on the Reis map barely resembles the real continent at all. But some researchers believe it is possible that Antarctica's landmass has altered over time. But with all the map's errors discovered, it soon became clear that the representation of Antarctica on the map may not be Antarctica at all. In fact, a possible answer to many of the Piri Reis' map's mystery may lie in Reis' sources. So, classical Greek cartographers originally proposed the existence of a southern continent due to the belief that landmasses must be balanced at either end. Therefore, one must exist in the southern hemisphere to balance one in the northern hemisphere. Due to this incorrect belief, many 16th century cartographers included and invented landmasses in the southern hemisphere despite having no proof of the existence of one. So
that's interesting because they were like, it needs to be balanced, and we know we're up here, so what needs to be down here, and then everyone kind of just rolled with it a little bit.
Yeah, they're like, that makes sense.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
They're like, I can see why they would think that way.
Mm-hmm. So, as Reis used at least 8 Greek maps and charts to draw up his own map, this was one of the possible solutions. Alternatively, there's actually one final, even simpler theory. What many believe to be an ice-free depiction of Antarctica actually is nothing more than a South American coastline. Some researchers hypothesize that Piri Reis simply ran out of room to draw on the gazelle skin or the deer roe skin, so he crammed as much of Southern America in as he could. Interestingly, Reis' notes backs up this theory. In his notes, he states this region is very hot and full of snakes. While these descriptions certainly wouldn't fit in with what they knew about Antarctica at the time, it could very well be describing the Amazon jungle. So, despite these findings, the mystery of the Piri Reis map continues to baffle and astound researchers to this very day. There's been no official answer to these questions, so it's up to people to make up their own minds. So, does the map show an ice-free Antarctica from over 6,000 years ago? Is it proof that alien technology once existed on Earth? Or did Charles Hapgood let his imagination get the best of him, and the map simply shows an imagined southern landmass or South America's coastline? So who fucking knows? I'd like to believe that it depicts Antarctica without its ice because that is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I think that there's so little that we know about our ancient cultures, or even cultures like 500, 600 years ago. There's so many blanks to fill in that might be possible, that Antarctica was either not frozen in the more recent history, or when it was not frozen over 6,000 years ago, our ancient civilizations had the capabilities of mapping it out. So, who knows?
I don't know. That was mind-boggling. I appreciate the history lesson, but also just like, bam. It's like,
yeah. Oh, that one.
I think it's in Antarctica as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my coworkers suggested this story.
It was a good one.
He was like, "Oh, like, have you heard about these maps?" Because Graham Hancock talks about these maps, and I talked about Graham Hancock once on this podcast, when the Amazon rainforest and how they're scanning it and stuff like that, and how yeah. So Graham Hancock, he's always talking about like the mysteries of ancient civilizations, and my coworker had recommended this. So yeah,
Nice. Way to go, coworker.
yeah.
Alrighty. Well, let's go treasure hunting today.
Ooh.
I am going to be talking about the Lost Dutchman treasure. And all of this information is pretty much from Wikipedia, by the way. So thank you, Wikipedia. Oh, and also I made these notes like 2 weeks ago when we thought we were going to record, and then, life happens and we didn't. So they're... Well, we're going to all like remember and learn together.
So excited.
So, here's some background on the area and such. According to legend, a rich gold mine hidden in the southwestern U.S., and it was located generally in the Superstition Mountains near Apache Junction, just east of Phoenix, Arizona. So here is a little picture of the mountains. It's very magical looking. It was one of the photos in one of my hints, so if you recognized it, woohoo. I don't think anyone commented on it. It's fine. I'm not mad. It's fine. Let's see. The Lost Dutchman is perhaps the most famous lost mine in American history. People have been seeking the mine since at least 1892. One estimate pegs about 9,000 people annually make some effort to locate it. Here's like a little sign. Oh, here's a little sign saying like, "Welcome to Lost Dutchman State Park." There's a little prospector and a little donkey, and it's cute. And it's like, oh, well, a lot of fucking people have died here, so let's not make it too cute. But here is a little bit more history and kind of where the story originated and stuff. There are 3 main stories of this mine that circulate that no one's really sure which one's like the real one. But the first one states that it's the lost Apache gold. Members of the Apache tribe are said to have a very rich gold mine located in the Superstition Mountains. Famed Apache Geronimo is sometimes mentioned in relation to this story. In most variations of the story, the family of a man called Miguel Peralta discovered the mine and began mining the gold there, only to be attacked or massacred by Apaches in about 1850. Some carved stones in the area are referred to as Peralta stones, and Spanish text and crude maps on them are considered by some to be clueless to the location. So there's some like carved stones in the area that are referred to as the Peralta stones, and they have Spanish text and crude maps on them, which are considered by some to be clues to the location of the Peralta family gold mine, aka the Dutchman mine. Other beliefs. Oh, and here's a picture of the stones. And so,
I'm going to say very quick that I think Geronimo is such a cool name. And I've met someone with that name. And I'm like, dude, if I was like, do people just like be like, Geronimo? And he was like, yeah, all the time.
Love it.
That's funny.
So the Peralta stones, there's 2 major ones that I'm showing right now. One has like a heart in it and a lot of other like kind of crude drawings that could be mountains and streams. And then there's also like a carved knife to the left of the heart. And then there's another stone that looks like it's mountains and like a trail, and there's an X, quote unquote, to mark the spot, maybe. Ooh. So that's why people believe that they lead to the mine. Others believe the stones to be modern fakes. There was a Peralta family that did operate a successful mine in the 1860s, but near Valencia, California, which is about 7.5-hour drive from where the mines are supposedly in the Superstition Mountains. However, that mine did become unprofitable after a few years, and the family allegedly looked to other mining options, but after that, kind of like the trail runs cold. So there was a family and they did have a mine. It was more in California, but when that mine went dry and didn't have any more gold, they did move somewhere else. That questionable, like, is it this area and that family that they moved in this? Who fucking knows?
So the alleged treasure is in Superstition Mountain, though.
In Arizona, yes.
In Arizona. So how far away from me?
It's
I drive there
not too far
today?
from Phoenix.
Oh, well, hey, honestly, I'm not too far from Phoenix right now, so.
Treasure.
There we go. You hike, right? Well, I'll give you some reasons not to go in a few moments, but here's another story which revolves around a Dr. Thorne. So, Dr. Thorne is a doctor that is said to have treated a wounded Apache and was rewarded with a trip to a rich gold mine in the 1860s. He is blindfolded and taken there by a circuitous route and is allowed to take as much gold as he can carry before again being escorted blindfolded from the site by the Apaches. Thorne is said to be either unwilling or unable to relocate the mine. According to the legend, Dr. Thorne was part of the Army or federal government. However, there is no record of a Dr. Thorne in the employ of the Army or federal government in the 1860s. There was a Dr. Thorne who was a private practice in New Mexico in the 1860s, who claimed to have been captured by Navajos in 1854, and during his captivity, he had discovered a rich gold vein. Thorne related his claims to 3 U.S. soldiers in 1858. Allegedly, these soldiers attempted to find the gold, but without success. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe he was awarded to find it and didn't want to share or couldn't find it again. And the third story is a little bit smaller, and it's also the reason why it's called the Dutchman Cave. And I got this from ArizonaStateParks.com, so I feel like this might be the most legit, quote unquote. In the 1870s, Jacob Waltz, which was dubbed the Dutchman, even though he was German, back in the day, they kind of like colluded everyone to be together. So like Dutch and German essentially were interchangeable back then. I know that's not the case, but that's why it's the Dutchman. He was said to have located the mine through the aid of a Peralta descendant, so the person who was ascendant of the stones. Waltz and his partner Jacob Weiser worked the mine and allegedly hid one or more cache of gold in the Superstition Mountains. Most stories place the gold in the vicinity of Weaver's Needle, as well a well-known landmark. Weiser was killed by Apaches, or according to some, by Waltz himself. In failing health, Jacob Waltz moved to Phoenix and died some 20 years later in 1891. He supposedly described the mine's location to Julia Thomas, a neighbor who took care of him prior to his death. Here's a little thing of his gravesite. It's kind of crude, but it has the numbers on it. So essentially, his story is I had the gold and then I hid it in the mountains and I didn't tell anyone about it. And my partner died from the Apache. So that's kind of how like maybe it all interwove together. So many people have seeked out this treasure over the years. A good amount has never been seen again or found dead in weird, mysterious ways.
Angela, don't
Finding
go.
skeletons. Yeah, exactly.
Is it
So don't go.
Take it back.
Is it on like a Native American reservation type of thing?
I don't believe so. I think it's a Arizona State Park territory.
Okay. Because there's like a lot of reservations around here. And I was actually looking at going to like an abandoned airport that has a bunch of like old airplanes.
Oh my
but
god.
apparently,
That sounds
yeah,
so
but apparently
creepy.
people have like gotten killed and shit. So I was like, because it's on
Maybe not.
it's on like a Native American reservation, and they're very serious about trespassing. So
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, guess I won't see these old planes. But all right, continue.
That's creepy though.
Yes. Maybe like go with the group. Maybe we'll go together.
And we'll all be killed. Just kidding.
yes. Or we bring that like fourth party person that, you know, in the horror movies are always killed first. It doesn't matter.
Right.
So that
We
the
just
rest of
gotta-
us can survive.
It's usually
We gotta
the
make
blonde
sure-
that dies first.
We'll get another blonde that runs really slow.
There we
As
go.
long as I cannot run them. We get.
Well, if it's a running match, I will lose. Anyway. Ooh. So finding skeletons while hiking around the superstitious mountains is a pretty common thing, which is kind of attributed to the mine, but also just they're mountains and people die in the mountains a lot. So let's talk about Dr. Ruth, Adolf Ruth. Ruth disappeared while searching for the mine in the summer of 1931. He had these maps that his son had given him from Mexico. So here's a picture of Dr. Ruth, and they both believed the maps would lead to the treasure. People searched for him and didn't come across anything and gave up after a few months. On January 8th, 1932, the Mesa Journal-Tribune reported, quote, "Find bottle floating in Salt River bearing, note signed by missing miner." The note read, quote, "I am sitting under a tree in a creek with leg broken. I've got to have help quick. Finder of the note, please give to Howard Peterson. Ruth. P.S. Have found the lost Dutchman." So people speculated that he hurt himself and he was able to find the mine, and then the bottle resurfaced a couple years later. So they're like, oh shit, like we should try and go find him again. And so they took the maps. Oh, that's not what I want to show. They took the maps that he had, which I'm showing right now. Oh, excuse me. They didn't have the maps. So they go to, let me just read my notes. I don't remember very well. It wasn't until December of 1932 that remains were discovered. Hunting dogs discovered a skull lying under a tree. The skull was punctured by a large hole. The medical examiner would attest it came from an Army-style .44 caliber revolver. It appears that a shotgun or high-powered rifle had been fired through the head at almost point-blank range, making the small hole when the bullet entered and the large hole when it exited. A month later, the rest of his remains were discovered about 3/4 of a mile from where the skull had been found. Many of Ruth's personal effects were found at the scene, including a pistol that wasn't missing any bullets, and also metal pins used to mend his broken bone, like his leg. Mm-hmm. In his checkbook, they'd recovered a note written by Ruth when he claimed to have discovered the mine and gave detailed directions. He ended his note with the phrase, "Veni, vidi, vici," which means I came, I saw, I conquered. So it's a little unsettling that his skull, like, it's normal-ish for, like, the skull to be found away from the body because scavengers could have taken it. Mm-hmm. However, like, animals and stuff. However, like, it didn't seem to be detached from an animal kind of way. It didn't seem to be ripped. It kind of seemed a little bit more, like, clean cut. And, yeah, it's been, like, a couple years with exposure and stuff, but it left me with a weird vibe that the skull was so far away and had a bullet in it that didn't belong to his gun, didn't match his gun whatsoever, and his gun was never fired, and it was like point blank. When people usually go like this, it was in the front of the skull and went through the back. And you're like, okay, did someone find him and just decide to kill him? Or
And then the fact that he had metal pins to help his leg. So it's like, were they inserted into his leg? Like, did he have someone that, like, put metal pins in his leg? Or were they around his leg?
I think it was more of around, like, he was setting it to make sure that it, like, stayed in one place. So maybe people helped him and then found out he had figured out where the mine was and then tried to get the information and ended up killing him or killed him after finding the information. Like, who knows, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm only sharing a few stories. I think later on in my notes, I mentioned how many people are, like, estimated to have gone in here and estimated to never come back type of thing. But so
how many women have attempted this, though?
And how recently? When was the last attempt?
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Okay.
So in 1938, a man named Jenkins, along with his wife and 2 children, were having a picnic on the mountain. During their outing, Jenkins found a heavy quartz rock that he later learned was heavily laden with gold. However, before he could return to the spot, he had a heart attack. His wife could not remember the location of the find. So that's kind of interesting. Like, I found gold, and before I could, like, do anything about it, I died naturally. Yeah. So is there a curse with this mine? Is it people? Is it voodoo? Fucking
all of the above.
And let's talk about James A. Cravey. I got this story from Ranker.com. In the 1940s, a 62-year-old treasure hunter, James A. Cravey, made an attempt to locate the gold mine, but was later found deceased in the wilderness of the Superstition Mountains. His headless body was discovered first. It wasn't until 6 months later that his skull was found. His journey to find the mine was a huge spectacle at the time, since he traveled to the mountain via helicopter. Before leaving, he said to his friends that he knew where the gold was hiding. He set out for 10 days to find the treasure and asked the pilot to come back for him. When the pilot arrived, Cravey was nowhere to be seen. His camp was intact and only 2 days' worth of food had been eaten.
Oh, no.
So he was definitely lost in the mountains. But, like, again, his skull was detached from the body, far away from the body. Yeah. Again, it could be animals and stuff, but there's a very big trend of, like, skulls away from bodies or no bodies with just a skull or bodies without a skull.
Dude, so, I feel like people who are going to do this really need to come more prepared in terms of having more weaponry and maybe camouflage, you know?
Angela's like, if I were to attempt this, listen, I'll be prepared.
I'll be stealth and
yeah, come on.
So the thing with Cravey's skull, as I'm showing right now, is that it has a huge indent in it. A very big indent. Like a good, maybe an apple or like 3/4 of a weirdly shaped apple type of indent going through his skull. Which just, again, left me with a feeling. So let's jump up a couple more years. In 1956, a man from Brooklyn, New York, reported to police that his brother, Martin Ziwotho, who he believed was searching for the Lost Dutchman mine, had been missing for several weeks. A month later, the missing man's body was found with a bullet hole above his right temple. Although his gun was found underneath his body, without any bullets missing, without being fired, looking like it had been fired or anything like that, the death was ruled a suicide. If you killed yourself, you wouldn't fall. Like, there could be a chance that you fall, like, on top of your gun. But
your gun would be missing a bullet.
Yeah! 2 years later, in 1958, in April, a deserted campsite was discovered over on the northern outskirts of the mountain. Things like cooking tools, cleaning supplies, a Geiger counter, and some personal letters were left behind. But so were blood-soaked blankets. There were no bodies. Strangely, someone had torn the names and addresses from the letters, and no trace of the occupants were ever found.
The fuck?
Like,
it makes you wonder, like, who is out there that's doing this, you know? It's like a guardian of the treasure. You are not worthy.
Oh, God. I kind of love that.
Is it a curse?
Yeah, is it a curse? Is it just, like, the ghost of the Dutchman? Who's like, I'm German!
Like, this is I'm German!
Get it fucking right!
Oh, my God.
So this is the last story I'm going to go over, and it's also one of the most recent ones. So, Jesse Capon was a 35-year-old gentleman who lived in Colorado. Here's a little picture.
Another man, just saying.
He was very interested, most said obsessed, with the Lost Dutchman mine tale and extensively researched it. His mother said he amassed a library of more than 100 books and maps about the Lost Dutchman, convincing him that the vast riches lay hidden somewhere in the rugged peaks of the desert. In December of 2009, he sought out on a third attempt of looking for the treasure. So it's not even his first time out there, it's his third time.
Yeah.
He took off a month from work. And by the way, he worked at one of the hotels that I work at. Not my same brand, but my same company.
Oh.
So let's see. He took a month off of work, traded his car in for a Jeep, and made his way to the Superstition Mountains. From the Huffington Post, this is the rest of the information I got from it. Almost a month after he went on his journey, Captain's Jeep was found by hikers. Not far from there, they found his campsite, where his wallet, backpack, and cell phone were located. A search and rescue party was assembled, but no one could find him. Here's a picture of his abandoned campsite. Oh, show me. Okay. So, like, all of his things are here. If you were leaving a campsite, you would grab things, unless you were running away from something. Unless someone dragged you away. Ooh. But there weren't any drag marks. It's just creepy, right?
Yeah.
A search and rescue party was assembled, but no one could find him. It wasn't until nearly 3 years later, on November 2012, in November 2012, that he was found. Volunteers searched every other weekend since he was reported missing in the mountains, and they were the ones to have found him. Capen's remains were wedged in an impossibly tight crevice about 30 feet off the ground. He may have fallen from a ledge above the crevice and somehow got wedged in, but his official cause of death remains unknown. My understanding is that the way he was so tucked in, that it was an odd place to, like, land from falling, because he would have had to be like, it seemed more like he was jammed in there.
He was put there by somebody or something.
There was no trauma to his skull from a fall like this, and his bones were wedged in an inaccessible spot that flooding and animals couldn't touch him. So that's why he wasn't spread around or anything like that. There's over 300 missing people in this area that have gone out looking 300? For the hidden Dutchman mine. Yeah. A lot of them were shot. A lot of them had guns that were not fired, missing bullets, or not found with them. In addition, many were missing their heads. Heads found months afterwards, further away, never again. Many were ruled accident or suicide without any real investigation going on. Is it a curse? Is there something or someone out there protecting the mine? Who fucking knows?
Damn. I wonder if, like, law enforcement is like, we're not going to investigate because maybe they know, like, what's going on. And they're just like, we're not. This is an accident.
Not going to touch that.
Sorry, boys. That's all we have. Can't explain it. We're not trying to get murdered. That is so cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think I want to go looking for this treasure. I'd rather just play the lotto and hopefully win.
But really, though, have any women
what if
gone
you go with, like, go with, like, freaking, like, huge group, like 10 people all armed,
power in numbers, baby,
you know. Power in numbers. 10 people all armed, we'll split the treasure, you know.
Who's gonna hire the mini militia you want?
I mean, we have 3 people here. I can pull another 2 from, like, my childhood friends.
I'm sure some of our followers would come. Hit us up on Instagram if you want to come to this.
We have we have like 4,000 and something followers. Let's fucking do this.
Okay.
Let's go.
Power in numbers.
We'll record the whole thing. It'll be great.
Show up with an army. We're going to find this shit.
The spirit's like, fuck. You weren't expecting this.
I have to draw up more energy from all the dead people here.
Oh, that's so cool.
Craziness. Well, Angela, did you bring your cards with you to Arizona?
I did not, but I have a solution to that.
Okay.
So I have an app. I have 2 apps. I have a mantra app, so I'm going to read a mantra, and I have a tarot app, so I'll pull a card for that. So let's start with the mantra. It's cool because I'll show you this right here. I'm showing it to my camera, but if I press this button, it's like, breathe in. Okay. So it says, I choose to see the light that I am to this world. So that's a little mantra. And then a tarot card for today. I'll show that to the camera as well.
Ooh, so cool. We can't see
anything. That is great.
So I'll show you guys it.
I feel left out. Just kidding.
Yeah. Gosh. Ooh.
So today's card is the Hermit. So it's contemplation, a search for truth, and inner guidance. A time for self-reflection. This is the soul's journey inward. The Hermit seeks the ultimate truth and understands that it comes from within and only after a period of self-isolation from the demands of the world. So
I think I've had enough self-isolation for a good while.
I was gonna say, that's an interesting card given the current times of isolating.
Quarantine 2.0.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, interesting. Let's take that into our lives as you may.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yep, so that is my card and mantra. Next time we record, I'll have my actual cards and it'll be a good time. But I figured, hey, let's go digital today because that's the only option we have.
Sweet. Well, on that note, friends, have a good day and bye.
Bye.
Hey.